Welcome back to Second Act Stories. I'm Clara, and I'm joined today in this lovely sun-drenched room by my dear friend Arthur. Arthur, it's so good to have you here. The garden is looking spectacular today.
The pleasure is all mine, Clara. And thank you, the roses decided to put on a show this week. They seem to bloom most brightly when they know company is coming. It doesn't get much better than a good chat and a hot cup of tea with a good friend.
I agree. Now, last time we spoke, you said something that really stuck with me all week. You said you were proud to be weird. In a world that constantly pushes us to fit in, especially as we get older and sometimes feel invisible, that's such a powerful and rebellious statement. What do you really mean by that?
Yes. Well, it's not the kind of weirdness that involves wearing a tinfoil hat, I assure you. For me, it comes down to clouds.
Clouds. All right, I'm hooked. Go on.
Think about it. You can look at 10,000 clouds in your lifetime, and no two will ever be the same. Some are thin and wispy, like a single brush stroke of white paint. Others are grand, towering castles, full of dramatic light and shadow. They are all uniquely, beautifully themselves, sculpted by invisible winds we can only feel. And yet, we recognize them all as clouds. They belong to the same sky. That's how I see people. We're supposed to be different. Our weirdness, our quirks, the little habits that make our spouses roll their eyes, that's just our unique shape in the sky. It isn't something to hide or sand down. It's something to celebrate.
I love that analogy. It's so much more freeing than trying to be a perfect shape that someone else designed. It takes the pressure off, doesn't it? It completely goes against the hustle culture so many of us grew up in, where you were always trying to be the most efficient, the most productive, the most conventional version of yourself to climb the ladder. It reminds me of the Danish concept of hygge. It's not about having a perfectly decorated, magazine-worthy home, but about the feeling you get when you're curled up with a warm blanket, a good book, and a candle flickering while the rain patters against the window. It's an embrace of the real, the cozy, the imperfect, not the ideal. It's permission to just be.
Exactly. That's the word for it, authentic. You've hit the nail on the head. And that authenticity, that willingness to be your own unique, quirky cloud shape, is the doorway to what I call magic.
Now, magic is a big word. Many people might hear that and think of fairy tales, illusions, something that isn't real. What does it mean to you in a real, tangible way that someone can feel in their own life?
It's not about wands or spells. For me, magic is the moment you feel your own breath sync up with the world. It's the hush that falls over a forest at dusk. It's when you're standing under a giant oak tree and you feel its steadiness, its life, its deep, slow time, and you realize you are just as alive, just as much a part of this incredible breathing world as that tree is. You are not just an observer of the magic, you are the magic. The same force that pushes the sap up through that oak is beating in your chest. The tragedy is how easily we get distracted from it by things that glitter but aren't gold.
That's so true. I was speaking with a listener last week who shared that after she retired, the silence in her house was deafening. She described her working life as this constant roaring machine. The 6 a.m. alarm, the frantic rush for coffee, the gridlock on the highway, the phone ringing off the hook, the endless meetings. It was exhausting, but it was also predictable. It filled the space. And then one day, the machine just stopped. And all that was left was the silence. She felt lost, adrift. She said she'd spent so many years on the hamster wheel that she'd forgotten how to just be. How does one even start to find that magic again when they've been disconnected for so long?
I understand that feeling more than you know. That hamster wheel is a powerful thing. It gives you a sense of purpose, even if it's a frantic one. I grew up in a very loud, very harsh city. I had to actively seek out quiet and nature. And what I found is that you can't force it. You can't put "find magic" on the to-do list. You just have to be available for it. Go to a park, sit on a bench. And here's the hard part. Leave your phone in your pocket. Don't bring a goal. Don't try to meditate or have a profound thought. Just sit. And maybe start with just one sense. For 5 minutes, just listen. What is the furthest sound you can hear? What is the closest? Is it a siren? A bird? The hum of the air conditioner? Just notice without judgment. The world will start to reveal itself to you. I promise. You have to step out of the loneliness and into aloneness.
You make an important distinction there, and the image of stepping into what you call a soup of life is wonderful. But Arthur, I'm thinking of our listeners who might not have that luxury. What about someone living in a high-rise apartment in the middle of a bustling city, far from any real forest? How can they find their own soup of life when all they see are concrete walls and hear are sirens?
That is an excellent and very real question, Clara. The soup of life isn't confined to the woods. The forest is just its most obvious kitchen. The ingredients are everywhere if you know how to look. For someone in an apartment, maybe the soup is a single determined tomato plant on their balcony, watching it turn sunlight into fruit day by day. Or maybe it's the sheer resilience of a dandelion pushing its way through a crack in the sidewalk. That, to me, is a powerful sermon on life's persistence. Maybe it's the sky. No matter how dense the city, there is always a patch of sky. You can watch the clouds from your window, just as I do from my garden. You can watch the starlings dance in unison at sunset. That is a wild, untamed magic right there. It can even be in observing the human ecosystem, the rhythm of the bakery opening across the street each morning, the stories you can imagine just by watching the faces of people on a park bench. It reminds me of how people in bustling Japanese cities find profound beauty in tiny, curated spaces. A single flower, perfectly arranged in a vase, an ikebana, holds a universe of meaning. The soup is connection to life in all its forms. The forest is a 5-course meal, but sometimes a single perfect tomato warmed by the sun is all the magic you need.
That makes it so much more accessible. It's about changing your perception, not necessarily your location.
Precisely. It's about finding the extraordinary in the very, very ordinary.
That reminds me of a moment I had a few years ago, after my mother passed. I was heartbroken. I was going through the motions of life, but everything was in black and white. The color had just drained out of the world. One afternoon, I was walking aimlessly in a small forest preserve, not really going anywhere, just moving. I sat down by a creek. The air was cool, and the only sound was the water flowing over the rocks, endlessly, patiently. And then a dragonfly with wings like stained glass landed on my hand. It was an iridescent blue, shimmering in the dappled sunlight like a tiny living jewel. It wasn't frightened at all. It just rested there, its tiny head turning, and I could feel the faintest vibration of its presence on my skin. It stayed for a full minute. And in that tiny moment with that tiny, miraculous creature, I felt a profound sense of connection. The color rushed back into the world. It wasn't a solution to my grief, but it was a reassurance. It was a little piece of magic that whispered, "You are still part of this. We are all still here."
That's it exactly. That's it. It's not about erasing the pain, but integrating it. Life is a full circle.
You cannot know joy without knowing sorrow. You can't appreciate the warmth of the sun without the bite of the winter cold. That's the wisdom of the seasons. My own life has followed them. My 20s were a chaotic, glorious spring, full of blooming and mistakes. My 30s and 40s were a long, hot, busy summer of raising children and building a career. And now I'm in my autumn. It's a time of harvest, of appreciating the fruits of that long summer. But it's also a time of letting go, of watching the leaves change color and fall, and not seeing it as a loss, but as a beautiful, necessary release. And I'm learning not to fear the coming winter. It isn't an end. It's a time for stillness, for reflection, for reading all the books I never had time for. It's the deep, quiet rest that makes the next spring possible. That's one of the few real benefits of getting older. You have enough seasons under your belt to know that spring always, eventually comes back. You develop a trust in the cycle.
What a beautiful thought. Arthur, this has been so enriching. Before we go, I want to ask our listeners to hold on to that feeling, that dragonfly moment, because I know these stories are universal. So here is our invitation to you. We want to hear about your dragonfly. Can you remember a small, specific moment where you felt that spark of everyday magic? A moment that reminded you that you're part of something bigger. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be the way the light hit a teacup, a stranger's unexpected kindness, or a perfectly ripe piece of fruit.
We would genuinely love to hear your story. You can share your story in the comments section below. With your permission, we might even share some of these beautiful moments in a future episode.
I can't wait to hear them. And be sure to join us next time when we'll be discussing the art of letting go and how clearing out our homes can also clear out our minds.
You know, the odds of any of us being here on this planet at this time are just astronomically small. It's a miracle. We are a part of a miracle. And our only job really is to be good stewards of it, to appreciate it, to do our best by it, and to make sure we leave this beautiful home in good shape for those who come after us. It's the greatest inheritance we can pass on.
A perfect note to end on. It's the inheritance of wonder. Thank you, Arthur, not just for the conversation, but for the reminder.
Thank you, Clara. It was a gift.